We are going to move on to our next portion of the debate here in just a moment. But first, we want to tell you that we're proud to be partnering with the League of Women Voters to bring you these debates. Here is a brief message from the League of Women Voters.
Hello, I'm Judy Stutman.
And I'm Vivian Jenkins Nelson. We are the co-presidents of the League of Women Voters of Minnesota.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters Minnesota Education Fund, local leagues across Minnesota, and 5 Eyewitness News, we welcome you to 2008 congressional debates. We are pleased to present televised debates for 5 of the 8 Minnesota congressional districts.
Further candidate information is available free of charge through the League's 2008 Voter Guide. The Voter Guide is available on our website at www.vote.lwvmn.org and in Target stores throughout the state beginning October 13th.
All right, thank you, ladies. You've heard questions from me and the League of Women Voters. In the second segment of this debate, we're going to hear the candidates question each other. They'll get 30 seconds or up to 30 seconds to ask their questions, 45 seconds then for answers, and then the candidate who asked the question will get another 30 seconds for rebuttal. And as we begin this segment, we will begin with Greg Michelson asking a question of Brian Davis.
Brian, the Republican Party has been known in the past for their fiscal responsibility and business-like decisions. Yet in the last decade, this doesn't seem to be the case. It has been said by many Republicans in office that they have lost their way. I'm sure that they go in with good intentions since they're endorsed by the party, but what situations have caused them to lose their way?
Greg, I think that is just a great question. I do agree that many Republicans lost their way, particularly between 2000 and 2006. The budget deficit went up, and it wasn't fiscally responsible. As I said to many people in our party, they appreciate it. We need to elect and endorse Republicans who behave as conservatives, not as moderates, not as people who say one thing and do another. And there were a few Republicans that did that, and we learned our lesson in 2006. And that's why in 2006 I stepped forward, because I saw that there were Republicans who had lost their way nationally, and that we need to get back to our roots. That the government needs to be limited, does not need to take part in every aspect of an individual's life. So I support the nature of your question, and I agree with it.
Greg Michelson, you have 30 seconds to respond, if you want to respond to anything that he just said.
I am concerned that it's the money raising and campaigns that taints the political process, that people contribute to campaigns, that feels it's more of an investment instead of a political campaign contribution, and that I think that there's an expected result that comes from that, and I think that's what taints all candidates. And that's why I guess I am choosing not to solicit campaign funds and not to go into the fundraising aspect, that people should be more concerned about the issues instead of fundraising and campaigning.
All right, and Brian Davis, your chance now to ask a question of Tim Walz.
Mr. Walz, in 2006, you ran a campaign commercial chastising your opponent, then Congressman Gutnick, for voting the party line 93% of the time. It was your 4th campaign commercial. Now with your voting record, voting with the party line 97% of the time, actually voting even more of the party line than Gil Gutnick did at that time, as pointed out by the Washington Post, how do you defend yourself from doing exactly what you criticized your opponent for when you were running for Congress?
Well, first of all, Congressman Gutnick was voting for the Bush administration. I've been voting against the Bush administration. I've been voting for the middle class. I've been voting to make sure we're energy independent. I've been voting for the largest single package of health care and education benefits for veterans in this nation's history. I voted against my party when I need to. I voted against the Peru Free Trade Agreement. I broke against them on the bailout bill. And I really doubt if that party leadership, if many of them are going to be out here hunting next week because with the NRA endorsement that I have. So I voted according to what this nation asked for. We wanted the change. Dr. Davis talks about he ran for Congress. He was running and came to my office lobbying for increased Medicare spending 2 weeks after I was elected. And he said he was doing that because of all the bad things that Congress had done. Veterans, 9/11 Commission, increasing minimum wage. So, yes, I vote against the Bush administration.
Brian Davis, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I know that I came to your office in April of 2007, and I respect you for taking the time to visit with me. As I recall, it had to do with keeping Medicare funding where it is. It's not consistent with any of my positions at all. But your website says you want an independent voice for Southern Minnesota. Yet on so many issues, the Employee Free Choice Act, illegal immigration, we don't know where you stand. You don't even have that on your website. Social Security ad that's attacking me, and you're not offering a plan with that. Healthcare, you only have 62 words on your website on this. How are you going to change Washington when you only have 62 words on your website?
And your time is up. Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Walls, you have a chance to ask a question of Greg Michelson.
Greg, I'm strongly opposed to any proposal to privatize Social Security that is exactly accurate in what I've said, to gamble away our retirement. Dr. Davis's position, on the other hand, is exactly that, in support of George Bush's plan. In the last year, the stock market dropped over 40%. I'm very concerned about what would happen to our seniors under Dr. Davis's plans to put their retirement security into the stock market. I'm strongly opposed to privatizing Social Security. What's your position, Greg?
I feel that Social Security has been kind of led us into a false sense of security where people are going to have their whole income for retirement paid from Social Security, and that's not the case. I mean, we've wasted that money. We should have been saving it for a long time. In general, I kind of believe in privatization, not in the federal mandated level of privatization, but in people have to accept their own responsibility for their retirement, save money, put it away for their elder years. And I think that's the solution. I don't believe in investing a portion of the Social Security funds to put into a private fund by the taxpayers, because we need all those funds in there to kind of get the money back into the Social Security program that we've taken out and wasted.
Mr. Walls, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, I strongly oppose any privatization. The Social Security Trust Fund is solvent until out 2041. We also know that without the reckless spending of the Bush administrations and the tax cuts and policies that Dr. Davis is advocating, it will speed that. We can do this under fiscal responsibility, but I will never put a family at risk. My family, when my father died when I was getting out of high school, I had an 8-year-old brother. My family used Social Security survivor benefits to pull ourselves up and go on to get college degrees and contribute back. I'll protect that on every vote.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Greg Michelson, you have a chance to ask a question of Tim Walls.
Tim, in the recent $700 billion bailout, you were quoted in the Mankato Free Press as saying, I wasn't voting to stop it, I was voting to make it better. To help me understand your vote more clearly, if you were hypothetically going to be the tie-breaking vote, would you have voted for or against it?
I would have voted against it. I did the first time, Greg. The vote was close, and people told us, well, if you vote against this, the stock market's going to crash, and there was all the panic of that. The bottom line is the fundamentals of the economy, when the CEOs who are being bailed out at AIG make more in 10 minutes than the electricians that wire the building in a year, something is fundamentally wrong. When health care is unaffordable to people, why they're taking junkets. I absolutely disagreed with this. I understand the need to make sure our credit markets are moving, but I never believed that that was going to help the backhoe operator down in Mankato, because we're doing no construction project. This administration has done nothing to build infrastructure, nothing to build alternative energy infrastructure. Because of that, those are the problems that we have. It doesn't matter if you're only making $15,000 a year, what's happening on Wall Street. You're going paycheck to paycheck. I'm working for the middle class to change that, and that's every vote I've cast.
Mr. Michelson, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I guess I understand your comment. I guess I'm just still a little unclear when you said you weren't voting to stop it. To me, that implies that you were in favor, but you wanted more other issues brought in there to make the bill more appeasable to you, like many other congressmen switched their vote in the past.
All right, Brian Davis, your chance now to ask a question of Greg Michelson.
Greg, the Employee Free Choice Act that Mr. Walls co-authored strips away the right for a secret ballot when voting in unionization proceedings. Tell me what your view of that particular act is.
Well, I believe in democracy, and that means a secret ballot, so I'm against this portion of the bill here. We need to have the unions and people to be able to vote their heart without having a card to show which way they're in favor of.
And Brian Davis, 30 seconds to respond.
Yes. Well, I'm very proud that the Association of Builders and Contractors has endorsed me in this race. And they have issued a statement regarding Mr. Walsh's support of the Employee Free Choice Act. And they call it unconscionable and that he is selling out American workers' rights. I can tell you, my mother was in a teachers' union. And I remember when she had to cast votes for whether they were going to go on strike or not. And she wanted that ballot to be a secret ballot. That is a fundamental right. Anyone who teaches a high school government class should know that this is a fundamental right in our democracy, and whether you go from Mankato West High School or to Washington, D.C., you shouldn't lose those principles.